Greetings, fellow Americans. Welcome to Fireside Chats, State of Our Nation. I am your host, Susanna Tanner, candidate for House of Representatives 2026 and President 2028. It seems that ICE raids are never ending at this point, and it's very heartbreaking to watch families be ripped apart because of these raids, and because of the Trump administration. Here's how I will handle ICE raids. First of all, there will be no snatch and grabs with masked men and no identification. I will halt unnecessary raids. The only raids that should take place are ones that are for arresting those who have criminal records and pose a danger to society. All of the evidence to support those previous items should be clear. No individual gets deported without due process. Children will not be taken off the street, nor will they be abandoned on the street. Those individual members of ICE who take part in raids and choose to wear a mask and refuse to give identification should be held accountable. Let's also talk about documenting illegal immigrants. Instead of raids, full-on raids, have a few members of ICE go with a local immigration enforcement to different areas to start documenting immigrants. Local immigration enforcement offices can assist so that each state is working to document those immigrants and providing oversight. Migrants that are already here and working, especially in agriculture and construction and other areas of hard labor, would have the opportunity to enter the immigration fast-track to citizenship. By entering the fast-track to citizenship, they would be granted a 2-year work visa that would allow them to continue to work here without disrupting or damaging our economy, especially by deporting good workers. ICE members would be allowed to speak to individuals while they're in the workplace for documentation and at home. However, if a person has a criminal history, they must be immediately taken into custody. There will definitely be lines of communication so that individuals who are arrested can communicate with family and legal representation. No person shall be deported without due process. And that due process has to end in the decision of the judge to find that the individual is deportable. There should be some options for those who are working to provide a better life for themselves, though. Let's say you have an immigrant who has committed a crime in another country, but maybe that crime was committed years ago, and now that person is living in the United States. Obviously, due process would reveal whether or not that person posed a danger to our society, posed a risk to our society. Should due process reveal that this person has a low risk, should they not be given the chance to live a peaceful life? They're obviously making the choice to not commit any more crimes. Something to think about. For those who do commit crimes here and have recent crimes on record from other countries, and or in the United States will probably end up doing time in jail before being deported. For the rest of the migrant population whose only crime might be that they're here illegally with no other criminal activity, pretty safe from deportation. There would be an increase in ICE presence at the border, though. After giving it some thought, I don't believe that our military should be used at the border unless we are engaged in battle. Let's hope that that is not likely. We can have ICE and Border Patrol partner with each other to take care of the border during times of peace. This would mean more ICE agents at the border as an assistant to the Border Patrol. Migrants found crossing at illegal entry points would immediately be documented and escorted to points of entry in the United States. Unfortunately, these migrants would have a misdemeanor charge on their records for crossing the border at an undesignated point of entry. There would also be an increase in ICE presence at the Canadian border, the U.S.-Canadian border. It would not be quite as extensive as the southern U.S.-Mexican border. The purpose of ICE agents at the U.S.-Canadian border would be the same as the U.S.-Mexican border, to assist Border Patrol with documenting migrants at illegal crossing points and escorting them to legal points of entry. We would be working with Canadian and Mexican leaders to make sure that our ICE counterparts in their respective nations would be doing their part on their side of the border. That is how I would handle ICE at this time. But since we're talking about immigration, let's talk about the fast track to citizenship. Newcomers from other countries would have work opportunities here in the United States. They would have work opportunities because we, the people, provide those opportunities through the fast track to citizenship. We have many areas that need tending to, and we need workers for them. The fast track is a way for immigrants to obtain legal status, employment, education for citizenship, and to contribute to the society that they want to be a part of. This is one of the best ways to regulate immigration of citizens from one country to another. They can even start the process in their own country, at the local U.S. Embassy. Working for trade for citizenship to another country is not a bad idea, considering that those on the fast track to citizenship in our nation pay taxes too. Employment opportunities through the fast track to citizenship are primarily labor jobs, but they include areas of our nation like infrastructure, economy, and possibly even technology. Part of the fast track to citizenship, though, is the education aspect. When a migrant enters the fast track to citizenship, they are asked a series of questions that determine the extent of their knowledge of the Constitution and our laws. This is something that I believe that everyone over the age of 16 should be tested for. This will determine the extent of the education that we will have to provide for them. When they enter the fast track to citizenship, they will be given questions about their skills and abilities to even help with better placement. This is going to determine if a migrant possesses special skills that may be needed in non-physical areas of the United States. Some of the employment opportunities offered through the fast track to citizenship contract include building new areas along the border for housing those who are waiting for a position to open up. Once we start getting a steady flow of individuals who are entering our nation through this successful path to citizenship, We will need places for those who are on waiting lists. These are temporary homes, so they would need to be regularly monitored to ensure that those who are on the wait list comply with the Fast Track to Citizenship contract. Basically meaning making sure that people don't disappear. It is definitely a probationary period to earn trust between both we, the people of the United States, and newcomers. Of course, earning trust is important between two peoples. That is all I have for today. Thank you for your time, and may our path lead to peace and prosperity. I don't ask for donations, but if you like this content and would like to leave a tip, you can click the button below or scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen.